Namaste, welcome to the Advice Channel today. Om Shri Sadguru Muji Ji Ki Jai. Om Shri Sadguru Ananta Ji Ki Jai. I'm reading today from The Transparency of Things by Rupert Spira. It's called The Transparency of Things, Contemplating the Nature of Experience. And that's exactly what it does. It's contemplating the nature of experience beyond the concepts that frame experience and condition experience that causes us to feel separate from others in the world. Because for many or most people, the perception of the world, the labels, the categories, the many different objects that are seen are expected to, or just believed to, reflect the actual way things are. But these things don't come with the labels, or the conceptual understanding that we apply and have been taught to apply. Welcome, Petra. And I think it's Ambika, isn't it? Have I got that right? I hope I have. So if anyone is watching this back, then I'll just read the back of the book, which gives a little bit of insight into what Rupert's been speaking about. So the purpose of Rupert Spira's book is to look clearly and simply at the nature of experience without any attempt to change it. The series of contemplations leads us gently but directly to see that our essential nature is neither a body nor a mind. It is the conscious presence that is aware of this current experience. As such, it is nothing that can be experienced as an object, and yet it is undeniably present. However, these contemplations go much further than this. As we take our stand knowingly as this conscious presence that we always already are, and reconsider the objects of the body, mind, and world, we find that they do not simply appear to this presence, they appear within it. And further exploration reveals that they do not simply appear within this presence, but as this presence. Finally, we're led to see that it is in fact this very presence itself that takes the shape of our experience from moment to moment, whilst always remaining only itself. We see that our experience is and has only ever been one seamless totality with no separate entities objects or parts anywhere to be found. Do you hear me okay, Petra? Yeah, good. So we've been reading from a section entitled Openness, Sensitivity, Vulnerability, and Availability. What part do feelings and the body have to play in this investigation? Much of the mind's activity is designed to avoid feeling. For instance, any form of repetitive, compulsive thinking is usually a sign that just below its surface lies an uncomfortable well of feelings. However, sooner or later, these uncomfortable feelings begin to percolate through the strategies and coping mechanisms that the mind has constructed. The first impulse is usually to escape them through thinking and activity. In this way, the cycle of seeking is generated over and over again. However, each time seeking is brought to an end in understanding, one of the mind's avenues of escape is cut off. As a result, when uncomfortable feelings resurface, we find that there are fewer and fewer possibilities of denial and avoidance. We no longer escape these feelings. We have the courage to face them. We do not do anything with them or to them, and by the same token, we do not deny, avoid, or suppress them. The impulse to escape them through thinking still appears, but that impulse itself is seen to be just one more uncomfortable feeling. Sooner or later, a deep conviction appears, a conviction that these feelings cannot be escaped, avoided, manipulated, or glossed over, nor need they be. And with this conviction comes the courage to face them. We just allow them to be. The openness, sensitivity, vulnerability, and availability that consciousness is, that we are, is the allowing of all things. This courage and openness to face our feelings is an invitation for deeper and deeper layers of feeling to emerge. It is for this reason that, to begin with, the spiritual path does not always appear to be peaceful. Often there is an apparent increase in the level of discomfort and agitation. However, that is a misinterpretation of what is really occurring. It is not new layers of discomfort and dis-ease that are being generated. It is age-old habits of feeling that are being exposed. To begin with, it is these feelings that occupy our attention. They seem to be all-consuming. However, as there is less and less impulse to avoid them, the welcoming space in which they are allowed to be, without any agenda for or against, is noticed more and more. The welcoming space of our own awareness, which once seemed to be in the background or even eclipsed by these all-consuming feelings, begins to emerge, and as a result, the feelings begin to recede. In fact, they do not really recede. Devoid of the mental commentary that previously gave them meaning and validity, they are experienced more and more as innocuous bodily sensations. In this way, they lose their bite. They are neutralized, not because we have done anything to them, but simply because they have been seen for what they are. Even to say that they are bodily sensations is too much. If we explore them in the same way that we explore any other object, we find that their very substance is the substance of the welcoming presence in which they appear. They have no separating power. There is no suffering in them. These sensations are like drops of milk in a jar of water. They are currents rippling through the ocean of ourself. So these feelings of themselves are not the problem. It's the belief in the story of a me around which these feelings appear to revolve that is the problem. Because in the moment there is just sensation. But even that's not completely true, as Rupert says, because even that is to objectify as separate from this aware space, this knowing space. So if you take a sensation right now, whether that be the sensation of the pressure as you connect with the seat on the ground, if you take away the label sensation, what is there to that other than the knowing of it? You find two things, even the knowing of it and sensation. It's just the way in which we speak. We don't find sensation as separate from myself as awareness or as this knowing or experiencing. But we speak about ourselves as a me in here, separate to a world that we experience, that independently exists out there. But what we do here is, what is it that's being experienced directly? Do we find them two things? And this is what Advaita, non-duality, as it's called in the West, or the direct path, is all about. It's coming to that, not intellectual, mental understanding, but the felt understanding. What cannot be denied, what is undeniably true about experience. No labels, even the label body, mind, which is labels. What do you find of mind in the here and now, other than perhaps the current thought? So just stay with always remains, what never changes, which is this open, transparent, empty. Again, these are labels, but the important thing is to allow that to point to the direct experience of yourself. There is an awareness here, a knowing, another name that's given, or experiencing. So just be that knowingly. And this is what beautifully loving teachers, masters, such as Nantaji, Mujiji, Rupert Spira, many others are all pointing to. What is this one thing that cannot be denied? Is it even a thing? Or does it just allow all things to be, or the appearance of things to be? So no longer giving our focus to the thoughts and feelings which so often grab the attention, but that in which they appear. There's something that allows an openness, a space that allows feelings and thoughts We don't see ourselves as failing in some way because the mind, or what we call the mind, is busy, or there's lots of thought, and there's a tightness, a sensation of tightness. We're more interested in that which is allowing that. And then seeing if we can find that allowing, that openness, separate from the appearances. Or could we say that this open, allowing awareness is in fact appearing as sensation, thought, feeling. Time and memory. It is often said that time is an illusion, but if I look back at my life, memories seem to validate the existence of time. Memory seems to validate time, but if we look at it closely, we see that it in fact validates the timeless, changelessness of consciousness. Memory creates the appearance of time in which objects are considered to exist independently from one another, and through which they are considered to evolve. However, we have no experience of a past that stretches out indefinitely behind the present moment. And we have no experience of a present moment rolling forever forward into the future. The idea that time is like a container that houses all the events of our lives is in fact a temporal representation of consciousness in the mind. And likewise, the idea that space is like a container that houses all the objects in the world is a spatial representation of consciousness in the mind. Events do not appear in time, and objects do not appear in space. They both appear in consciousness. When an object, which is simply an appearance in consciousness, is present, its subsequent recollection is obviously not yet present. It is non-existent. And likewise, when the recollection, which is simply a thought in consciousness, takes place, the original object is no longer present. It is non-existent. In other words, two objects cannot appear in consciousness at the same time. When one is present, the other is not, and vice versa. How then can a non-existent object be remembered? It cannot. An object is never remembered. It is in fact a third thought which apparently connects the second thought, the recollection, with the first thought, the object. And when that third thought is present, neither the object nor its recollection are present. This third thought is therefore a concept that does not relate to an experience. Time and memory are apparently created with that third thought, but have no existence apart from that thought. At the same time, we have a deep conviction that the experience of the first object is somehow still present in the form of a memory, that the experience was not entirely lost. Yes, that which was truly present then is truly present now. Consciousness. The object borrows its apparent reality, its apparent continuity, from consciousness. Nothing is ever lost. That which took the shape of the object then is taking the shape of its recollection now. However, the idea of then collapses with this understanding, and with it the idea of now, because these two ideas depend on one another. Therefore, time and memory as such are never experienced. The apparent continuity of an object, which memory seems to validate, is in fact the continuity of consciousness. It is the ever-present now. And what is our experience of time? Do we find a thing called time that's moving along? Do we ever find past? Is it even a thought? Memory appears now. There's no past there. It's just memory, thought, appearing now. There is only this. Past and future are imagined. The concept of time, though, is useful. Conventionally speaking, helps us plan and navigate the appearance of duality. So as not to deny the usefulness of this as a concept, time as a concept. It's to believe that it refers to something as absolutely true, existing independently, that causes anxiety, regret, guilt. And reinforces this image of a separate me, bound in time. Suffering that comes with this that happened to me, or of this that's going to happen to me. All a narrative, all a story. And those things can still come up. even here. But they're seen through quickly. As imagined. Has no bearing really on this conscious presence now. If there is a temporary resistance or stress, it's just like a little nudge, a little alarm clock, really to say what's here now, what's really true. What am I really? The spinning wheel that appears on a computer screen when a function is taking place appears to be composed of a dot that circles round and round. In fact, it is composed of numerous individual dots, each one appearing and disappearing in rapid succession. In this way, the illusion of a single dot travelling round and round is created. And even when we know this is the case, the illusion is still very convincing. The appearance of a single dot is created by numerous intermittent appearances. The dots have no relation to each other. They are only related to the screen, to the background. The only thing they have in common is the background of the screen. It is the screen which is behind and within the dots, that is illumined when each dot appears. It is the permanence of the screen that is indicated by the apparent continuity of the travelling dot. There is in fact no travelling dot. Similarly, continuity in time is in fact the ever-presence of consciousness. It is the ever-present background of consciousness, rather than the continuity of time, that is indicated by memory and which itself gives apparent continuity to appearances. The separate self is one such dot, given apparent continuity by the presence of consciousness. As Einstein said, the separate self is an optical delusion in consciousness. The continuity with which the sense of I shines is the ever-presentness of presence. However, we mistakenly attribute this ever-presentness to an object, to the body-mind. In the Christian tradition, this mistake is referred to as the original sin. It is the original mistake, as a result of which the story of a separate entity that exists in time is born. All psychological suffering depends on this original mistake. Timeless presence seems to become an object that is present in time. Ever-presence seems to become continuity in time and permanence in space. The eternal now shrinks itself into an endless expanse of time and space. However, even as it does this eternal now never ceases being what it is. How is it possible to have an objectless experience? It is difficult to answer this question, as the question itself contains an implicit assumption that we experience objects. Of course, there is the appearance of objects. However, experience is in fact always objectless. Instead of starting with objects for which we have no experiential evidence, and trying to go back to consciousness from there, start instead with consciousness, which is an absolute fact of experience, and try to go from there to objects. It is not possible. So we simply stay with the facts of our experience. and allow our deep-seated convictions and certainties about the nature of experience to be unravelled in this disinterested contemplation. The world, as a result, returns to its proper place. Does consciousness experiencing itself mean, in ordinary terms, that that is a non-experience? If so, what does it mean to have experiencing when there is no experience? The presumption is that experience implies objects, and that when there are no objects, there is no experience. As an acknowledgement of this, the word experience is used to describe what is normally conceived of as experience with objects, and non-objective experience to indicate experience without objects. Again, we cannot really resolve this issue whilst there is the conviction that objects exist as an actual experience. From our ordinary point of view, objects slowly disappear as we fall asleep until, in deep sleep, no objects at all are experienced. We therefore normally conceive of deep sleep as a state in which there is no experience. However, even if for the time being we provisionally grant the existence of objects, the essential ingredient of every experience is consciousness itself. This is easy to check for ourselves by asking what would happen to experiencing if an object such as this book were now to be removed. Nothing. It would continue, although it would have a slightly different character. However, what would happen to experiencing if consciousness were to be removed? It would vanish absolutely. So the experiencing part of an object belongs to consciousness, not to the object, if such an object exists. So in deep sleep, when consciousness is, so to speak, all alone, with no objective content, the experiencingness of consciousness remains exactly as it always is, pure experiencing. So the experiencing that is present during the apparent existence of objects is no different from the experiencing that is present during the absence of objects. It is only referred to as objective experience and non-objective experience, respectively, as a concession to the mind that conceives the existence of separate, independent objects. Consciousness is experiencing this. And because consciousness is always present, so experiencing is always present. How could this experiencing this not be experiencing itself all the time? So you can't really get away from it. I remember a pointer, I think it's probably used by Rupert. Question really. Can you find anywhere where consciousness is not? Do you find a place where there isn't consciousness? So if you're new to this understanding, the mind might be saying, oh, well, when I'm sleeping or outside of my body, these are just thoughts. It's actually finding in your experience. Can you find in your direct experience a place where there is no consciousness? So we don't refer to ideas, we only refer to direct, immediate experience. I like this term, experiencing this. Because it serves as a really good pointer to this feeling of oneness. Takes attention away from objects, just to this overall sense that is not separate, no objects really, no objects or thoughts which can divide up this overall sense of experiencing this. So whereas previously we might have, using the term consciousness, seen it very much as separate from body, from matter, from objects of the world, experiencing this. kind of reduces that potential for the separateness. So don't hang on to any of the words, really, just stay with the experience of experiencing this, that experiencing is. Whatever form that takes. Everything, all these appearances, apparent appearances, is experiencing this. None of the labels that were applied to the appearances can separate out this overall sense of experiencing this. And do you find a you separate from this experiencing this? Because even the thought me, the me thought of this body, mind going about life on a journey, on a spiritual journey. Even those thoughts, that thought, the me thought, and the feelings and thoughts that are in support of that, are all this one experiencing this in the here and now. And strictly speaking, it's the only, all there is this experience. All else is imagined. So these are always good questions for inquiry. Where is the me separate from this experience in this? Where is it separate from this consciousness? These words, terms can be used interchangeably. What's most important is the experience of what they're pointing to: awareness, knowingness, openness, allowing this. Appearance of body, mind, it's all part of this experiencing this. So I think we've come to a natural end section in the book. There's no end to this experiencing of the self. Is there anything that you wanted to say, Ambika? You don't have to, that's fine. Been lovely to have you here. Anyone else that's joined on YouTube, thank you very much. Hope it's been useful in some way. Om Shri Sadguru Mujiji Ki Jai. Om Shri Sadguru Anantaji Ki Jai. Sangaji Ki Jai. Much love and peace to you.